What's up, everybody? I'm Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. Welcome to another episode of Movie Swap. This one is number 35. It's hard to believe we've had so many of these. It started uh, 6 or 7 months ago. What is this? This is October. I believe we started this in April. So, yeah, that'd be 6 months ago. And the person I have with me tonight was my very first guest. He's everybody's favorite conversationalist. So I'm just going to go ahead and not waste any more time, and I'm going to bring in the man, KB of KB Loves Movies. What's going on, bro?
What's going on? Good to be back, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you get to be not only the first guest, but the first return guest. So I'm gonna pretend that that's an honor and say thank you.
What do you mean? It is an honor. It is. It's nice to see like how the series has blown up and some of the guests that you've had on here. I was like, I didn't even know they knew each other. So it was really good, and there's a diversity of guests and the movies that you've been picking. I've been enjoying it personally.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it, and diversity of movies is kind of my thing. I love doing that. But it's spooky season, so we're gonna get into some horror tonight. But before we do that, we're just gonna chit chat for a minute, and like I told you backstage, we're gonna talk a little sports ball. For so I
Hmm.
hope I don't lose anybody out there.
Stay with
So
us.
yeah, I'm gonna start with the team on the hat, the logo on the hat, and this is going to be and painful for me too, so I'm not going to stick with this year. We're going to talk a little history. I don't know if you caught last night's how much you caught last night's episode with Rich. We talked a little baseball at the beginning, so we're going to
Hmm.
start with them. So you are it's an all-time Yankees team. World Series is on the line. Bottom of the ninth inning, they're down a run but got a man on base. Ever played for the team? Who's at the plate? Who do you want at the plate?
Do we need a hit or a home run?
You're down a run. There's two outs. Bottom of the
Okay.
ninth.
I got to bring in the captain, man. I got to bring in number two, Derek
Oh,
Jeter.
interesting. Not my call. Not my call. I In those situations, I always default to Reggie Jackson. That's that's always my
Well,
answer.
that's why I asked you. If we needed a home run, we're bringing in Mr. October. If we just need a hit, we're bringing in Mr. November.
Fair enough, but I'm taking Mr. October for either one. I mean,
Nice.
for either one, because that's just
Nice.
always came through. At least for me. At least for
Well,
me.
that is actually the player that got me into loving baseball and loving this team.
Actually, the same. Actually, the
Yeah.
same. We
When he
are the
came
same
over from
age.
Oakland and he became a Yankee, and we used to go and get Reggie bars and all that good stuff.
Yes, Reggie Bars.
And I stayed up with my dad and watched it turn into October and him at the plate and the magic that he did. So, yeah,
Man, were you in the room with us? I swear, we're such 70s New Yorkers. Good Lord.
we are. We are. And so many New Yorkers have like similar stories about that. But
Oh,
yeah, that
yeah.
I
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
I have his jersey, and when he was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, my buddy is a pilot and he flew him to the ceremony.
Oh, man.
So he's telling me for weeks, yo, I got to find my Reggie boy. I still got a wrapper from when I was a kid. I was like, you do not.
No.
So I was like, you got a wrapper, but I got a jersey to sign. Would you mind? And it was the first time he ever signed his name, 44 HOF.
Oh, man.
So I got
Outstanding.
to find some place down here to
Is it
hang that
is it is it
because
framed?
yeah, I got it
Uh,
mounted and framed, bro.
Excellent, excellent. So, fall on hard times, though. You know what you're auctioning off, right?
Pretty much. Pretty much. First thing before the movies.
There you go. There you go. So now we're gonna spin that question forward a little bit. Not spin it forward, but spin it in a different direction.
Okay.
So like me, we're Yankees, Knicks, Giants.
Right. Oh,
So now the Knicks was we're gonna go to the Knicks for a minute because last time they won an NBA title, we were toddlers.
pretty much.
Yeah,
You two, me three.
exactly. So same scenario, but in a basketball sense, you're down a point. Last shot, no shot clock. Any Nick that's ever played for the team, who's taking that shot?
It's a tie between No, it's not even a tie. I'm gonna go Bernard King.
Same, same,
I'm going
I,
Bernard King.
same. Yes,
I was gonna say him or Clyde, but no, Clyde would probably try to pass the ball.
exactly. Clyde would try to pass it, and
I'd pass to the B King, man. I met him too
oh,
in a
cool.
freaking a pharmacy in the Junction, Flatbush and Nostrand Avenue. I met him. He had a signing.
Okay, I didn't. I never met him, but I had an uncle that went to school with him and Albert.
Albert, yeah,
Yeah. So that was as close as I got to meeting him. I did get to see him play in the Garden a couple times.
me too.
So that was cool. That was cool. During the run when he was just killing everybody that year.
Yeah, scoring
Before he,
title couldn't stop him.
yeah, then he got hurt, unfortunately. All right, last iteration of this question. Let's spin it over to our Giants. Last second
Nobody
drive.
on this team.
Yeah, yeah. Who's the QB on this last second drive to win the Super Bowl?
Just because he's so freaking lucky, I'm going to say Eli.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
not even for the skill or the greatness, just because he's so darn lucky.
So lucky, and I mean, if anything, they talk about how he's going to make the Hall of Fame, and I say it's really two throws that's going to get him into the Hall of Fame. Not
Yep.
even a whole career; it's two plays, but that's what it is.
I was watching a movie the other day, and the person, it wasn't like, typical urban setting, whatever, but the person put their gun in their waist. And I was like,
Oh,
we don't
Plaxico.
do that anymore, man. That's a Plexico rule.
Yeah,
We don't
that's
put the piece
Plaxico.
right.
Yeah.
Thigh meat,
Um,
a little closer to the middle. Nope. 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 Nope.
that is exactly what I thought, and what happens in the first movie we're going to talk about too.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And I called Plexico.
Yep, that's exactly what I said. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I
yeah.
said.
I think that's it because my wife had never seen that movie that we were about to talk about, and I just turned to her, I was like, "We don't do that, Plexico." And she's
So
like,
that worked out to be a perfect segue into movies. So hopefully didn't lose anybody.
"Stay with us."
Yeah. I did tell you backstage that I was going to ask about Oppenheimer, because we got to talking about the Barbenheimer movies. We got to talking about those a little bit backstage. So you had mentioned you saw Oppenheimer in IMAX. I did as well, and I'm not sure if you saw one of the videos I did where I recounted everything that I watched in the month that I saw Oppenheimer. But in that, I said that uh, I'm not sure that it in IMAX or 70 millimeter, was really all that necessary for Oppenheimer, because so much of the movie is dialogue and there's a lot of up close shots. But there were just a couple of really IMAX worthy scenes in it. So
Yeah,
where do you fall on that?
good question. I take it in the same vein like Nope, and they
Okay.
do share the cinematographer. In Nope, it was totally necessary. So all those wide shots, outdoor landscapes called for it. The alien, everything. And if you're gonna call and get that exact same cinematographer, you expect, even if all the scenes don't call for it, you're gonna expect that same level of detail and quality. And we have this term that we use, like one perfect shot. So every good movie, I should say, has one perfect shot. Miles Morales jumping off the building at the end, upside down shot, whatever it is.
Right.
And there were a few situations in Oppenheimer where Hoyt van Hoytman was trying to create that one perfect shot. So if you're going to have somebody like that, and it's Nolan, so he's shooting on film, you're going to shoot with the best film possible in IMAX camera.
Okay. Okay. My Also, I said in that the sound design was much more impressive, at least to me. And I'd be shocked if that didn't win Oscar for that.
Yeah, especially comparing it to some of Nolan's past movies. I mean, whether it's Bane's voice or Dunkirk, it's always difficult. I think it was Dunkirk. I actually went and got one of them goosenecks for the captions because I couldn't understand a single word they were saying. but the other elements of the movie is where the sound design really shined in Oppenheimer. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see who's hanging out with us tonight.
Yes, sir.
Before we jump all into it, we got Wilkie's first in the building tonight. Hey, he says,
What's
"Hey,
up,
Dell and
Corey?
KB, what's going on, man?" And Huck is here.
Huckster.
He's two of my best buds in one place. Life is good. Life is good. Absolutely. And I have not seen Gungshi here in a while. He says, "Hey, KB and Dell, and everyone in the chat. See, you bring them all
He's
out,
someone who hangs out in the chat on my live streams. He
right?
was with us last night. He's actually in Taiwan. So
Right. I
thank you
remember.
for
I
joining us
remember. Yeah.
and popping in. Always good to see you.
So it's tomorrow in Thailand now, right?
Pretty
Is that right?
much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Are
So
they
good morning, good
12 hours? Did
afternoon.
we find out?
I think it was 12 or 13.
12 or 13.
I
Okay.
feel bad. I asked him that almost every chat now.
Steve is here. He says, "Howdy, y'all." Found out last night that Steve and I are in the same city.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Good to see you, Steve.
Always good to see you. Huck says, "It's an honor having you both in our community." Oh, thank you, Huck. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. We
The love is
appreciate it.
real.
All right. Emmett is here, and before I get to Emmett's question, I will say because I haven't mentioned this in a little while, though, Emmett, I am enjoying the playlist still. So every now and again, I just pop it on. I don't. Emmett invited me to join a playlist on Spotify where they make a
Oh,
joint playlist. They take
hmm,
whatever you have and whatever that person has, and
yeah.
they make a joint playlist that you should both enjoy. And it's worked out pretty good in our case. So I
So,
would
what's your favorite thing to do in spooky season?
Yes, that's the question. What's your favorite thing to do on spooky season or in spooky season?
Watch Halloween repeatedly and play Thriller from the end of the song.
Just the Vincent Price part?
No, just from the from the bridge, from the
Okay,
just from that
got
part.
you, got you. I'm partial to the Vincent Price part, so that's
Oh
why
yeah,
I
well
meant
that comes on eventually, but that
it
groove's
comes on
already going.
eventually. Yes. uh, Fun fact for anybody who has seen the Thriller video, of course, and Coming to America, the dance that they do at the engagement ceremony when Prince Hakeem is meeting his soon to be bride for the first time. It's pretty much the same dance sped up.
Yep,
Same choreographer, Paul
they do
Abdul.
the foot stomp in the circle, everything.
Yep, yep. So go watch the two back to back and then go, oh wow, he's right. Yeah. All right, Steve, I hated Reggie. Always been a Dodger fan. That's exactly why. I've always been a
Hmm.
Dodgers fan. He killed us.
You had some great pitching though, can't front.
Oh man, yeah. Back in that time, absolutely. I was always a Davy Lopes fan though from back then,
Yeah,
and Steve Garvey. I like Steve Garvey too.
Steve Garvey was a beast.
Yes, he was absolutely. All right, Emmett says even though you may or may not believe 13 to be an unlucky number, but do you know it's next Friday on this October? I absolutely know that it is coming up on a Friday, not this
Yep,
Friday, but the following one. Absolutely.
yep. And I feel bad for anyone who suffers with triskaidekaphobia.
Yes, I mean there are still buildings out there with no 13th floor, but that's the biggest fraud in the world, I swear.
What's
Tiana
up,
is here.
Tiana?
She says, "Hey everyone, hey Tiana."
Thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely. And Emmett, so that's your favorite number one song to listen to, the Halloween KB Thriller. All right, yes,
Yep.
absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, probably my favorite song to listen to during that time of year too, because Halloween doesn't have a lot of great songs.
Nope. And then put it on the shelf for 11 months.
Yeah, there are lots of good horror themed videos out there, music videos though. So you can definitely find some of those in on YouTube. That's for sure. All right, my man, the time has come. Let's go ahead and get the show on the road. And I'm gonna turn it over to you,
All right.
and you can let us all know what your movie is that you suggested for me to watch.
All right. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that my man Dell has never seen the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, done by Zack Snyder. And this stars, I would say, a pretty nice ensemble cast. So you have um, retired actress Sarah Polley. You have Ving Rhames, Mekhi Phifer. You got the dad from Modern Family in there, and a couple other people. But the thing that I like about this one is that the characters play well off of each other, but you pretty much have the same premise overall as the original. You have a zombie outbreak, and you have people reacting to it, and they end up in a mall, and it's just a matter of survival from there. There are a lot of similarities to the original, but there's also a lot of choices, I would say, not really risk taken, but a lot of unique choices that were taken to make it original in a sense and different. So it's not a pure remake. As our friend Tim Talks Talkies would say, if you're going to remake it shot for shot, why bother?
Yeah, I agree with that. And not only had I never seen this, I had never seen the original. Um, I had never seen the original Dawn of the Dead, so I watched that first before I watched this. So I just went on the trip. Yeah, that's the one. And I don't have that one, but I do have the same 4K of the remake that you have. I just picked it up, not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Good
caught it
deal.
on good deal, caught it on sale. Um, but yeah, I had never seen that 78 original, so I watched that one first, and then I watched this one on back to back days.
Mm-hmm.
So I would agree that there are some different things done differently. The premise is the same, but the guts are a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. And, sometimes, like I said, it's a risk that people can take, and sometimes it works out poorly, and other times it works out well. What did you think as far as, see, I'm already going into my conversation. But what
Go
did
for
you
it.
think as far as the remake and how well it did?
Well, I'm going to say my overall thoughts
Of
for
course.
for the end. Um, I would say I agree that it did things to make itself original, but I also think it pared back the commentary that Romero was going for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in Romero's film, he leans heavy into the whole idea of consumerism enslaving us all, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And in Zack Snyder's film, he leans more into power dynamics and just how that affects us in our relationships with one another. And it's uh, it's a more typical approach, um, but he did it well. He absolutely did it well. There's nothing, no doubt about that. It's not like he changed it like a lot of movies. When we get remakes, it's like, oh, well, they did this differently and this differently, and it didn't work out. It was terrible. It should have left it the way it was. I don't think that's the case here. I,
Mm-hmm.
I think he definitely did what he wanted to do well.
You
So
just
I'll
described
argue with
Zack
that.
Snyder.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
did what
pretty
he
much.
wanted to do.
He did what he wanted to do. So going along those lines, though, I'm gonna say this for me. One of the thoughts I had while watching it was this was this was Zack Snyder and James Gunn who wrote the screenplay.
Hmm.
This was them before the MCU took over the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause the style of movies that they're both making now, heavily influenced by the MCU in some way, shape, or form, or part of the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Of course,
it's
in
true
James Gunn's case.
because, like, I had that live stream with Ryan, movies with Ryan, and it was about Sucker Punch, and
Yeah,
you
I
could
remember.
see that Watchmen. You could see the change in creative style. I'll say, for lack of a better term, creative style before and after the superhero movies took over.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And even if you compare Dawn of the Dead to the zombie movie that he did a couple years ago. Was it City of the Dead? Was that the name of it, or Zack Snyder did for
Yeah.
Netflix?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name.
But even compare the two and the style of humor that's in both of those movies, the style of humor here was never overwhelming,
Mm-mm.
subtle at some points. Sometimes it was a little bit in your face, but it wasn't like, we didn't get into the silly one-liners and staring at the camera kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that, as far as the this movie goes. Um yeah, he really, it's a really big difference. And even you can go back to around this similar time frame, or within those few years, again, before the MCU kind of really took over things. uh you go into watch 300, and it's a similar thing where there's humor in 300, but it's not like, not that overbearing kind of thing that we get now.
Right.
And I really appreciated both movies for that. But yeah, I did appreciate that in this film. um uh, so how do you think about the change between the two, as far as what the directors were going for theme wise?
I welcome it because for a lot of people, if they're, big fans of the original, they almost don't want the film to be touched.
Hmm.
So, everything that follows, you have Day and all the other Dead movies, Romero movies, they don't want them to be touched. So if somebody comes along and does this, for one, they probably originally saw it as sacrilege. If I could go back to that time and like read articles or whatever from big fans, but I think you have to come with something different or original. And I really like this movie from the first time I watched it because it didn't try so hard to match up exactly with the original. So I like the differences that are brought. You mentioned the difference in the underlying tones of the two
Hmm.
movies. So I like that change. I mean, if we're going to talk consumerism in the early 2000s, it's just going to be an update of what we saw. And I don't think we could make Romero's Dawn of the Dead today or in 2004 because there were other elements there that cannot be duplicated. So whether it was the treatment of the female lead
Hmm.
by the different people, or the way the cops were to certain racial groups, let's say.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
yeah, I just
the
don't see it being duplicated the same way. So
the
you had to
cops.
come with an original thought. You had to come and you had to bring something different. And I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. um on the surface level, the thing that stands out, of course, even if you're not one of those people who's going in and looking at underlying themes and subtext and all that, it just the very, very surface thing is Dawn of the Dead 78, slow moving, slow walking zombies. 2004, they run and they come after you.
Not
Uh,
not World War Z fast, but they're coming.
yeah, not that fast. How did you like that change?
Once again, I appreciate it because it made it. I don't know. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether we're talking vampires, lichens, if we're talking zombies, there's always some change over time. And then we get to a certain point where we kind of accept like the different things, like the silver bullets for the wolves,
Hmm.
or the garlic for the vampires, or whatever the case may be. And people just take that as lore. They just take it as, well, this is the way it is. So any change or diversion from that, it's kind of like, well, that's not the way it's going to be.
Yep.
No, it should have different things. Like, people hate, I mentioned World War Z, people hate the fast forward zombies, as I call them, but at the same time, it's something different.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
something different. So I just welcome the change and the experimentation of it.
I enjoy World War Z first. It was interesting. I was less less concerned or less worried about the speed of them, but I like the ingenuity of them basically linking together and making a chain of themselves to
Freaking
get from
wall.
place to place. Yes, that was cool. Now, as far as this movie goes, though, now going back to 2004 when it came out, I don't remember which one was first, but it's really this and 28 Days Later as really the first fast zombie movies. Am I right?
That sounds about right. If somebody knows any earlier films, just throw it up in the chat. But I think you may be right.
Okay, okay. And now I saw 28 Days Later back then. I didn't care for it much. I like it a bit better now.
Same.
Um, yeah, but if you can take yourself back to 2004, and I know you just mentioned about how we don't like change, but do you remember what the atmosphere was like around this movie at that time, as far as that particular thing goes?
I really can't. I really
Okay.
can't. I mean, it's funny. I make fun of the early to mid 2000 movies because there was a certain style to them. Like, take a look at, you're a Scream fan. Look at some of those, like
Hmm.
Three, which came out today. Four, take a look at those movies and there's the production style. Even in two, a little bit, I would say. Things like the freeze framing to switch to a different scene, or just like certain tropes that they would use in those early 2000 movies. I don't know why it just came to me. Frailty. If you ever seen that movie, there's a lot in that movie of like screaming. This is an early 2000 movie. I think that was like 2005 for
Right.
comparison. But yeah, I can't remember what the temperature was for this. I mean, you could look it up, but I think it was well received.
Yeah, I remember it being well received, but I just know again, like you were mentioning, how people are kind of resistant to change, and if people were kind of going, well, zombies shouldn't move like that, or anything like, or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
Um, but let's getting back to the movie itself. What did you think of this ensemble cast? There were a lot of names there,
Yeah.
and well, go ahead. What did you think of them as as an ensemble?
Well, for one, I don't think, well, I guess Mackay Pfeiffer was known by then, but more for hood classics than anything else. That
Right.
was probably before his, you know, career got going as far as feature films that he'd
Hmm.
be noteworthy in, TV shows, things like that. But I think at the time the most popular actor would have been Ving Rhames.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because Modern Family didn't pop off really yet. So
Mm-mm.
what's his face? He
Yeah,
wouldn't have been big.
the guy who plays Phil Dunphy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't think of his name though. His
and
actual name.
most famously, Sarah Polley. This is one of her last movies before she retired from acting and got into producing and directing. Last year, Women Talking, the
Hmm.
Oscar-nominated one. So yeah, I think that would have been Ving Rhames if anybody. And I wouldn't say he carried the movie, but he was pretty instrumental in the majority of it. And the guy who played the security guard that you just wanted to see get the worst happen to
Yeah,
him,
yeah.
I was trying to remember what show I knew him from, and he was like the straight laced dude on House of Cards.
Okay, I've not seen House of Cards, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I know his face, so
yeah.
he's one of those. Hey, that guy. He's one of those people
Hmm.
for
He's
for
definitely a
me.
that guy.
Yeah, so I knew I had seen him before. I just couldn't place him. Um, I did like the cast. I did. I enjoyed everybody's performance for the most part.
Hmm.
Uh, now, more importantly than just them and their acting, I thought was the writing of their parts and how they interacted with one another.
Hmm.
And I, I think for the most part it was good, but there were a few moments where it was kind of obvious foreshadowing.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Um, I,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
I would go back to what you said earlier about the social commentary piece.
Hmm.
Sometimes that seemed like it was kind of like hard fed. So it was almost like, okay, we're trying to show you this here. So it, I like when things like that are under the surface. So you have different types of moviegoers. You have people that just go in for, like I would say, face value,
Hmm.
and they could walk out and they didn't get any of that, and that's cool. They're happy. They ate their popcorn. They're good to go. But
Exactly.
then the people that look deeper get more out of it. But it was kind of like they were kind of forcing it to the level, like, hey, even you casual moviegoers, here's this element, or here's this thing we want you to catch. So,
Right.
but for the most part, great ensemble cast, well acted all around. Writing was pretty good. I mean, like I said before, a lot of risks taken to not only remake a classic, but to make enough changes that it could stand on its own, dare I say. At least I think it does. I
Hmm.
know people have only seen this and they've never seen this and probably never will because, that's too much for them.
Yeah, I can see it being too much for some people, and I can see people again now that we're uh, used to the type of zombies that's here that we have, going back to it and going, "Oh, that's stupid. Why do they move like that?"
Yeah.
So I
Slow
could definitely,
moving, Night of the
yeah,
Living Dead kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and I will say one thing that the faster zombies does is it ups the urgency of the situation, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the slow ones, it's like now, maybe at some point it's going to be overwhelming because there's so many of them.
Right.
But I always have the illusion of having time to figure something out because they're so slow.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if something is coming at me pretty quickly,
Yeah.
now I'm in a panic and I might make a mistake and all those kinds of things. And another theme that runs through the movie, partially because of that, is the decisions that these people make and the positions that they put themselves in or find themselves in after making these decisions. Some of them rash, a lot of rash decisions. Um, of course, the one that was toughest, I would say, would be with Mekhi Phifer's character and his wife, his pregnant wife, and who gets and with these two movies I'll just put it out since these are pretty popular movies. I'm not
Uh-huh.
as worried about spoiling them for the most part, but yeah, she gets they say scratched early, not early on, but fairly early on. They say she's scratched, and from there I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. And it was bad. It
Mm-hmm.
was bad.
Mm-hmm.
How- now your first time seeing it, you might not remember, but how were you with that whole scenario?
I think I said it was messed up, but I didn't say messed.
Right.
That's all I'll say. I think I just said, "Oh, that's messed up."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was kind of warned because I don't know where I saw something the other day before I started watching it where somebody had was talking about it, and I just kind of one of those comments you kind of bump into by accident
Mhm.
on somebody's post, and it kind of mentioned, her
That.
her scene, and I was like, okay, so I was kind of prepared for it, but at the same time, not. So that was a real interesting moment in my life. I will say this: I was like, oh my goodness,
Yep. Yep.
and I felt bad for him because he was all about it.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Let's see if anybody out here is talking about the movie. Lutulo is in the building, just popped in. He says hello to everyone. Did I miss the memo? When did Halloween time/season become spooky season? It's like every year,
When
Lutulo.
PSLs took over, when it became pumpkin spice lattes, man, we
Very good
needed a
answer.
theme.
Very good answer. Very good answer. I was hanging out with my daughter this past weekend because it was her college's her school's homecoming, and she's like, afterwards we just kind of hanging out around town, and she's like, oh, we got to go to Dunkin' Donuts. Why do we got to go to Dunkin' Donuts? We just ate. Why? Why? Because I got to try the ice spice latte. Oh.
You ain't got a nothing.
Yeah,
You,
exactly.
that's
But
when you hit them with like the 12-year-old questions. You got Dunkin' Donuts money?
yeah, I usually do. And in this case, she did. She actually paid for it herself. So I was like, sure, we'll go over there and get it. And it's a pumpkin spice latte with munchkins or donut holes crammed in the bottom of it. Or oh, it's she let me taste it. It is the sweetest thing ever. And I was
Y'all
like,
gonna
yeah,
be 30 years old with diabetes, man. I swear. I don't wish that on anybody, but y'all be drinking the sweetest things. As my wife would say, drinking your calories. Drinking your calories.
yeah. Lutulo is making a grammar correction. That's all right. It's cool. I try not to be a grammar Nazi during these things. So, Wilkies, don't judge me, but I haven't seen that one yet. No, no
It's a
judgment
fun
here at
one.
all.
Check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I just saw it. So, literally yesterday. So I was kind of saving it because I wanted it to be kind of fresh.
Nice.
So, literally just yesterday, I watched it. Trini is hitting the building. What's going on, Trini? He says, what's up? Another New Yorker. Absolutely. And got people saying hey to Trini. Let's see. Up there's Laren, and he's saying, "What's up?
Lauren.
What's going on?" Good to see Laren as usual.
Always. Always.
And here we got a movie comment. Lutulo says, "Dawn of the Dead, 1978, has more social commentary. Yep, and is more intimate with the smaller group in the mall. Dawn of the Dead, 2004, leans more into the action. They're both good, but 1978 is better." We're gonna tackle that question in just a little bit. We're going to tackle that one. We have Off-World Legacy. I don't believe I've seen him on my channel or her. I'm not sure on my channel, but thank you for coming and hang out with us. I just wanted to jump in and say, what's up, everybody? I can't stay. I got to bounce to work. Well, thank you for popping
Thank
in
you.
and enjoy your work night if that's possible, or work day, depending on where you are in the world. Latulo, 28 Days Later was first. It came out in 2002. Thank you. 28 Days Later is a superior film to Dawn of the Dead 2004. Hmm. I'll let you tackle that one. What do you think on that?
Different lanes, I would say, because some people don't even see that as like anywhere in the zombie
I
subgenre.
I know. I call that semantics, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing about the zombie is that we've moved away from the African Caribbean undead kind of, zombie kind of thing, and now we're really just talking about some kind of outbreak. So that's where I see the similarity between the two. Like we both said earlier, I didn't really appreciate 28 Days Later when I first saw it. It was only years later and repeat watches that got me to be like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. But I was on Dawn of the Dead remake from first time. So that's how I break it down.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. CJ, Michael Kelly. Yeah.
There he goes. My favorite character was the head security guard, CJ. He had the most common sense. Did he? Ooh, Sarah Polly's character I found annoying. Ty Burrell. That's it. That's Phil Dunphy. Ty Burrell. Ty Burrell is funny. The girl who went after the dog, dumb.
Dumb.
That last part I
Dumb.
definitely agree with.
Oh my God, so dumb. But to go back
Very dumb.
to Sarah Polly's character, she was
Hmm.
resourceful. I won't say anything, but she could
Yes.
hop on a future in a college track talking about I got the keys. That's all I'm
Uh,
saying.
yeah. And
More
now
than
I do
once.
want to. Okay. Okay. And now I do want to tackle a couple of other things in this comment. CJ, did he have the most common sense?
I don't know about that.
I don't
I think
either.
he tried to be like you remember when we were kids, we go to the mall and we talk about the security people there and call them toy cops.
Yes.
That
Or
I
rent a
don't know if
cops.
that was just a New York term or whatever, but we
Toy
used to
cops
call
or rent a
security
cops.
guards toy cops.
Mm-hmm.
Like you couldn't make the academy, so you a toy cop.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I think he had toy cop vibes. Like he got off on the power once again,
Yes.
underlying commentary there of being the leader of the other security guards and everything, and then try to push that power onto everybody else. Common
Right.
sense, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I would say pretty much the same as you. I might add that uh, he was more interested in using the power that he had at the beginning of the movie to ensure his own survival and not necessarily those around him.
Yeah.
He was constantly, you go do this, you go do that. I'm going to stay here and hold down this, and every decision was based on what's best for me, not necessarily what's best for the group.
Master delegator.
Yes, yes, definitely so much. And my other part of that is just basically, was he your favorite character, or who was your favorite character? And so I'm sorry. Before we go that to the common sense thing, my vote would go to Ving Rhames' character for the
Yeah.
most common sense.
Once he got past that emotional state,
Hmm.
he was ready to rock and roll. But
Absolutely.
for a little while there, he was a little emotional. Not gonna get into the details of why, but
Right.
once he got
Right.
past that, yeah.
And now, was he your favorite character, or who was?
I probably would say him, you know. Once again, Sarah Polly's character, resourceful, but I enjoyed Bing Rames' character the most.
Hmm.
Mackay was until he put the gun in his face.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I would say my favorite character is one who we never actually get any dialogue from. And I would say Ving Rhames' character and Sarah Polly's character, they're pretty close as far as second and third. But our man across the way, Andy, was my favorite
Aw,
character. And oh man, I, I had my heart was full with Andy. Let me go with this guy. He was my favorite character.
when Andy said he was hungry and they showed him how emaciated he looked, I was like, "Oh
Yes.
man, why they gotta show my man ribs?"
Yes. Yeah, he was my guy. So that whole dog situation kind of hurt me even more because I was like, oh
So
man,
dumb,
really, this is what we're doing.
so dumb.
Yes, 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 it was. Um, Now, one of the things that Andy's character does, and he helps the movie with, is passing down time. And I found this different in the original and in this movie. The way that time was passed and the way that it felt when time was passed. Um, I will say in the original, when when they got one, I didn't like the way Romero spaced it out because
Hmm,
it seems all backloaded. We get all this tension, 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 tension. Then all of a sudden, in the third act, the movie kind of grinds to a halt while everybody just kind of chilling for a while. And I didn't like that. Whereas in this movie, it's more towards the middle and kind of lingers into the third act, and so I like that aspect more.
yeah,
Yeah, and even during that downtime, there was still he Zack Snyder maintained more tension
yeah, and,
than Romero.
the whole thing about using a montage to show time passing was well done.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't like, we think of montage a lot of times we think of, swelling music and really fast cuts and just little stitched together scenes. And it really wasn't that. It was kind of a slow meandering kind of montage. And like you said, I thought it worked really, really well. Um Now, what? Let's see. Caveman is out here because I had to have to mention the caveman who popped in. What's going on, caveman? It's just two of my favorite gentlemen are on my TV. Oh, we're on the big screen. Cool. Says
Hello.
please hit the like button for these two cool cats. Thank you, caveman. Really appreciate that. And Lutulo, and he says Sarah Polly saw her husband get bitten and turned, but tried to stop them from killing the guy who was bitten. CJ was cognizant. That is fair, but going back to that whole point, I don't think one lapse in judgment says that uh, he has more common sense than her.
I think the next one continues
Okay.
the comment.
And it says, yeah, CJ was cognizant of who got in. I wouldn't say CJ was selfless, but he redeemed himself by the end. Yeah, I can go with that. That he did redeem himself in the end, um, as much as he could be redeemed. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, the last thing I'll say is that Zack Snyder pulled a switcheroo on us towards the end of the movie, or at the very end of the movie, because when it ended, again, trying to not spoil it, but at the end, I was like, when the credits first start, I was like, okay, this is not what I was expecting. during the credits, we get a bunch of quick cuts of what's happening or was about to happen and what's going on, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is more what I expected, but I wasn't expecting the way they did it, like it's
Yeah,
in the into the credits, interwoven into the credits. What do you
yeah.
think of that decision to do it that way?
I think it was delayed gratification,
Yeah,
if you want to put that in quotes. Like I said, my wife had never seen it before, so she was sitting there, and she's usually like, "Credits, gotta go."
yeah, yeah,
Something to do, gotta set the coffee for tomorrow, whatever it is. And I was like, "It's not over. Sit." And once the credits started rolling, she was like, okay. Because it was like the end. Nope.
no. Did her opinion on the movie change from that?
No, no.
Okay,
I think by the time she got to the end and the events that took place did, I think she was satisfied with like the conclusion. So when there was the credits, it was kind of like that was more of what I was expecting.
okay,
So
okay.
similar to you in that sense.
Right. Okay. Cool. And I asked that question thinking about my own wife. She didn't watch this movie with me because she doesn't do horror
Mhm.
unless I trick her into it, which and I didn't in this case. I just so happened to be watching it when she came through the door and she
I
saw it and
mean,
was like,
there's the
"Whoa."
word "dead" in the title. If you could
Right.
get past tricking her on that, good luck.
Right. Well, the way tricking her works generally goes, I'm gonna put on a horror movie and she'll go, nope, I gotta go. She'll go out of the room and then she'll come back in and watch for about 10-15 minutes at a time. Like, okay, I've had enough. Let me go back out for a few
Mhm.
minutes and then I'll come back. So she watches something kind of that way.
Does she do the thing where she asks you like 50, 11 questions when she comes in the room and you
Oh
to
yeah.
be
Well,
like,
she
why don't
does.
you just stay here and watch a movie?
I'm be honest, she does that when she's sitting here. So that
Mine too.
yeah.
Mine too.
But now, but I knowing her though, she's big into happy endings.
Mhm.
So, and I'm gonna spoil Gravity for everybody who hasn't seen. I'm gonna spoil it for a minute. Um, she's not just into happy endings. She wants them to go on as long as possible. So you've seen Gravity, correct?
Of course.
So at the end of that movie, Sandra Bullock's character, she lands in the water, and then we get a shot of her walking onto the beach and back to civilization and her life. Movies
Her new discovered appreciation of life.
correct. And the movie ends right there.
Boom.
So my wife watches this movie and she's like, "Oh man, I wanted more." I'm like, what more do you want?"
You
she's like,
wanted to
"Well,
see her like in a suit walking down the avenue, going to the office,
no." She's
smile on
like,
her
"Oh,
face, coffee in her hand.
well, she's like, I wanted to see her, get back to her family and have a reunion." I'm like, "Babe, the movie's got to end at some point."
Credits gotta roll.
So I say all that to bring it back to Dawn of the Dead is if she had watched the end of it, I think she would have been fine. And then once the credits started rolling, she'd be like, "No, this."
That's when you tell her, it's over, baby. Let me play some special features." So you could
So
have cut it right there and gave her a happy ending.
I could, but that would not suit my sense of humor. So,
No, no, it's gotta be dark.
yes, it's got to be. It's got to be. All right. Let's go ahead and get into my overall thoughts. Or is there anything else you wanted to talk about as far as Dawn of the Dead goes?
No, man. No. I'm glad I enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to hear what you think.
Okay, cool. All right. So for me, for Dawn of the Dead, and oh, you know what? Before I do that, I will let you tackle the one question that came up. The thought that
I was
came up
trying to avoid that.
is it better than the '78 original?
I got a cop out answer, man.
Uh oh.
The cop out answer is it's different enough to stand on its own.
Yeah, that's a yeah.
It's a cop out answer, but it's honestly the way I feel. Like I said, I could recommend this to somebody who's never seen the original and they can enjoy it just on their own. Or I could say, hey, double feature 78, 2004, and watch it together.
Okay.
And it's not like, hey, I'm watching the same movie twice. It's not like you're watching Gus Van Sant's remake of Psycho.
Oh goodness, no.
So I think it can be enjoyed by itself or with the original. Between the two, I could tell you there are four cuts on this collection here. I watched the longest one, which
Mm,
is weird. It's the Argento cut, the Dario Argento cut, and I enjoy it. But as far as spins, I play this more.
okay, okay. I since I don't have that one, I actually found a 1080p copy of it on YouTube. So if anybody hasn't seen it, you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
At least for now, maybe the powers that be might hear this and go, "Oh no, we got to get rid of that." But who knows? It's been up for years. So all right, back to my thoughts on the movie, and I'm going to echo your sentiments. I'm going to say, yeah, it is definitely a different movie, using the same premise, but again, taking it in slightly different directions, and I'll say slightly different directions all the way through until what we get is a big difference as far as where the movie ends up. And again, we're talking more subtext here and the way the characters interact with one another. More of that than what's on the surface. Because surface wise, story wise, I mean, it's essentially the same.
Yeah.
Just changed a few things around for from 78 to 2004.
Hmm.
Um, but the guts of both are a little bit different. I will say I did really enjoy this movie. The speed of the zombies compared to the original ones, like I said before, that ups the tension for me personally as a viewer. It makes it where I could see myself screwing it up so bad because something is running at me that's going to
Emptying
kill
your
me.
clip.
Exactly. And then I'm done because I don't have anything else, and I got all these
Hmm.
all these other zombies to deal with.
Yep.
And so yeah, it definitely upped the tension to me. The scene we talked about with Mekhi Phifer and his family, that was that was uh that was an all timer for me as far as horror movie scenes, great horror movie scenes. I think that one
Mm.
is right there. Another one which kind of apes the scene from the Romero movie where they pulled in the lady from the that came in with the truck. They had a truck full of people that came in and they pulled her in, and then they kind of draped the thing over her head, and like in the Romero movie, of course, she gets back up. Which by the way, as soon as I saw her, I was like, "Oh, you put a bullet in that one."
I was like, she don't look too good.
Yeah, she don't look too good. We know what we're dealing with already. It's
Yeah.
not like it's the beginning of the movie.
Right.
We put a bullet in that one and shove her back out,
Yep.
out,
Let her
or
be
throw her off
food.
the roof or whatever. Um, but yeah, that was also a really well done scene though. Uh, so I did really really enjoy this movie. If I'm comparing it to the '78 original, and I'm gonna take a I'm not going to completely cop out because I will agree, like I said before, it is different. They're different movies. You watch them, you get a little bit different things out of them. But if I'm leaning towards one, I'm going to say this one is a little better than the original.
Yeah.
Not by much, not by much, but a little bit better.
Yeah.
So,
I would say last word I'd say on it is instead of calling it a remake, I would
mhm.
quicker call it a remix. And
Ah,
sometimes we know the remix is better than the original.
yes, the Fugees would agree.
I was just thinking about that. Just thinking about that, man. Nappy Heads remix.
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. And
Nice.
my guy Patrick is here. I also stopped in on Patrick's stream. He had another stream a little earlier tonight. He says, "Greetings, what's going on?" If you're not familiar with
What's
Patrick, and
good?
I shouted him out last night, but I'm going to do it again because I know I have some people here in the chat that are not normally here. His channel, he does lots of interviews with lots of indie filmmakers, and we're talking actors, directors, writers, and he's interviewing them 2 3 times a week. I think it's 3 times a week. So hop over to his channel and learn something about film actually.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
like just listen to me jabber on about movies. So and he's the remake. He says it's so much better. Okay.
Mm,
And he said it has so much heart, and some of the scenes were flat out exciting. Yeah,
yeah. And I
they
think it
were
was
more
said
exciting.
before, it's more of an action horror movie than just a straight zombie genre, horror movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Gungshi, I went to see the 2004 version in the cinema and was pleasantly surprised by how well it stood up on its own terms and was more than simply a remake. Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
a remix.
Yep, a remix. I do like that term. I really do. Latulo, I like when a horror movie has a bleak ending. I think one should walk away from a horror feeling like, wow, I'm glad that was just a movie.
It makes you appreciate real life a little bit more.
Exactly. Exactly.
Nice, nice. Go kiss your wife, hug your kids, and go
Yeah.
saw a horror movie.
And I'm to the point where a lot of movies that, we call horror movies or scary movies, they don't really bother me anymore. And it's more, what gets me more is dramas or thrillers, based on real life that are kind of the situation is terrifying. So like for me, Requiem for a Dream is a horror movie. That's like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
Woo!
that's
I can't watch that. 12 Years a Slave, horror movie.
12 Years a Slave is a horror movie. And I just watched one for Movie Swap a few weeks ago. I'm gonna
This
big
is
you
a
up
horror
here.
movie to me.
Oh yeah,
This
yeah,
could
that is
happen.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
premise, the reason why, that's terrifying.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's funny. I watched it back when it first came out on DVD back in the day, and I did watch it alone at night, and because
Creepy
I
factor.
don't remember where my wife was, where the family was, but I was home alone for whatever reason. So hey, you know what? It's a good idea. Let's watch The Strangers. And first time I watched it, so I had my critics hat on. I used to blog, do movie blogs, and I used to write a lot of reviews. And yeah, being technical about things, I was like, this is wrong, but this is right, this is cool. And I didn't really give it a great score. But then I thought about it in my head, when that movie was still over, I was still kind of double checking out the window to see if there was somebody standing out there. So it's like, yeah, I was wrong. I was definitely wrong.
Hmm.
That's a horror movie.
Yep.
All right. What I was going to say was I did watch a movie for Movie Swap a couple weeks ago when I had Nate on. He had me watch 99 Homes.
Yeah.
Um, and to me, again, that was a horror movie for me. I was, I was like, are you kidding me? No,
Yeah.
that situation's too close. I don't like
Yeah.
that at all.
We were in Minneapolis over the weekend, and we passed some areas that you could tell once upon a time they were affluent,
Hmm.
and they were just nothing but um tents. Just,
Mm,
you know, people living in tents.
wow.
And
That,
it's like, how many paychecks away are we from that?
yeah, not many. That's for
Yeah.
sure. That's for sure. Patrick says, "Thank you. You are more than welcome, sir."
Hmm.
Latulo, with horror movies, it's the juxtaposition that makes it intriguing, just opposed to a feel/family movie.
Yeah.
Okay,
I could see that.
I could definitely see that. Patrick, I love the nuts and bolts of filmmaking. Yeah, he's talking about the all the indie folks that he interviews. And 2004 did have a bleak-ish ending. Okay.
Oh, don't bring this up. This movie.
Okay.
This
Yes.
movie.
So case in point, Latulo goes The Mist. I
Oh
know a
my
lot of
gosh.
people who don't like The Mist just because of the ending. I think viewers are conditioned to want a happy ending regardless of genre. In America, for sure. That
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
definitely the case.
You don't see that so much like if you watch like South Korean horror, J horror. We don't expect happiness.
Yeah.
We don't even like the whole final girl thing. We don't expect that when we watch like other, like international films. That's
Yeah.
like not a
Yeah.
thing. But that movie,
Man.
man, we never saw it before, my wife, and we watched it the other night. And the ending, she's like, "Oh no, I would not. No, mm-mm." When
Yeah.
you can't make sentences complete.
Yeah.
That's what that movie does to you.
Oh, I was there and I'm watching it the whole way through. And yeah, when that ending happened, I
That's
just sat
bleak.
there dumbfounded for a while. I was like, "Oh my god!" Whoa. And at the time I saw it back when it came out again, and my son was young, really young at that time, so it was even worse. So it was like I'm kind of I watched it at home. I'm kind of going in his room, looking at him, going, "Oh man, kid,
I couldn't. I
you don't
couldn't.
know." Yeah, yeah. Trini says that's why I love Korean movies. No happy endings.
Yep.
Yeah, a
Even
lot of
when they're
times.
touching, they're bleak.
Yes, yes. Even when they're touching, they are bleak, and yeah, no other way to say that. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna switch over and let's get to the main event of the evening that we've been talking about for months now, actually, and that is that I had Mr. KB finally after 32, 31 years of this movie's existence. Finally gotten him to watch Candyman 1992. And just for a brief synopsis for anybody out there who does not know the story, we meet a young woman played by Virginia Madsen who is in trying to work on her thesis for her doctorate. And she has a best friend played by Cassie Lemons, and they decide, you know what, they're going to take on the urban legend of Candyman. And that urban legend starts with, if you look in the mirror, say his name 5 times, he appears, people die. And of course, the nearby housing projects there in Chicago is Cabrini Green. RIP to Cabrini Green, no longer exists. But there's been a lot of happenings over there, including young woman who was killed, and that death has been attributed to the Candyman. So her thesis is basically trying to disprove an urban legend and get to the bottom of it. And the movie goes from there. So, Mr. KB, the first question, of course, is if you are, open to sharing, why not? Why have you not seen Candyman?
Let me tell you, I need, for one, you put me on blast the other night saying, for someone who called himself a horror fan, even more as a black horror fan, let me tell you something. What year was this? 92?
92.
Okay. So you got to figure 92. The fanciest film I'm watching on a daily is Silence of the Lambs. All right. Get out of school, trying to discover like other types of movies, getting into international, found out what Criterion Collection is, start going in that direction. With the exception of Scream, horror movies ain't popping. Kind of moved away from the genre, I have to admit.
Okay.
So honestly, even 30 plus years later, I'm still going back mid 90s, early 90s, 2000s, and catching up on horror films. Now, by the time I went to see Candyman, what was the second one?
Uh, Farewell to the Flesh.
And what year was that?
That one I want to say was like 95, 90, somewhere in that Scream era. I'm not.
95. 95. And I heard that was straight corn.
It was not
So
good.
so you tell me the sequel is bad, I'm going to make assumptions that the original is bad. I was wrong.
Interesting. That's an interesting assumption.
Because I know most sequels suck, but I was turned off. Honestly, Scream was the only thing I would say in the 90s that still caught my attention. You know, the sequel of the franchises, all that, whatever. But I kind of turned away from the genre and got into more other stuff. So by the time I came back to it, I'm still playing catch up, bro. So
Got you. Got you. So when you say turned away from the genre, I know you said you watched the Scream stuff. So there were a bunch of Scream knockoffs out there. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend. Did you skip all those too?
for the longest, for the
Wow.
longest, unless I was like going to the movies like on a date or something, I didn't see a lot of those in the theater. I didn't see Faculty in the theater. I didn't see Urban Legend, Final Destination. I didn't see any of those in the theater. And I used to go to the movies a lot, like every weekend. But I just didn't choose horror movies. But I'm glad to say what'd she say, 31 years.
Yeah.
It's been remedied. Got the 4K. Watch the unrated cut like everybody in the UK originally saw it. And I have to say, I liked it.
Okay. Okay.
Dare I say, I loved it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
the thing
Spoilers
that I
early. I
liked,
like it. Go ahead.
the thing I liked about it the most, and we won't even talk about. Oh, we got a black slasher movie. It's really not that. But the thing I liked about it is that it had a gothic element to it,
Mhm.
and I wasn't expecting that. I thought it would be like, Tales from the Hood or something like that, but it was a lot
Ah,
more than that. So,
yes.
um, we've seen a common horror trope where the villain, beautiful woman, you're coming with me. Even like last year, we spoke about Blackula when you
Mhm.
were on my channel, and all of a sudden the woman is exactly like his wife from how many years later.
Hundreds. Yeah.
So it's like, wow, doppelganger, you found her, great. But we've seen that trope so many times, but the way they approached it this time in this movie was different, and it gave like that, once again, that goth horror kind of feel to it. So I enjoyed it, but he's cold, man.
He is.
My man
He
is
truly
cold. But
is.
what's that Chris Rock joke? I understand.
Yeah.
When you get the backstory, you're like, oh man, he's doing this to kids, and this person and this one was innocent, but I understand.
But I understand. Yes, exactly. I understand. I get it. I get
That's like, we dare you to say his name 5 times. No, my subtitle is, but I understand.
it.
That's all I'm saying.
Uh, full disclosure, when I did go to the theater to see this back in the day,
Hmm.
and I was maybe I was an idiot because what if something would have actually happened? But I did go in the mirror, in the bathroom, in the mirror, and go, "Can say Candyman 5 times." I was like, "Hey, let's see what happens." So I'm still here. So
Good
we'll
thing.
we'll see. We'll see if anything happens down the line, and I'll remember. Oh, I said that way back in '92. Why did I do that? But one of the things that I was watching on this watch, because I've seen it quite a few times, and actually even maybe 6 months ago or so, I showed it to my daughter,
Hmm.
and so what I was watching on this watch, what I really noticed was how little Tony Todd is actually in the movie.
Yeah.
So and I'm see you shaking, nodding your head. So did you picked up on that?
Yeah. And
And
I don't know if people realize this, but if you a lot of your horror classics, you go back to the original, like we were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street,
mhm,
and how little Freddy Krueger's in it because the cost of the makeup job and all that stuff. They said he's in it like under 10 minutes, like 7 minutes in the whole movie complete. And the same thing here. It was like his presence was in the movie more than anything else. And then when he finally shows up, he is a presence. My
yes.
man standing there looking like the second coming of Shaft with a silhouette and everything.
So yeah, what'd you think of the drip? What'd you think of the big coat he's got on?
How Kanye say, "You see this coat?"
Exactly.
I I'm telling you, man, I really enjoy it. I knew I would. Just the way everyone's talking and the shock on everyone's face when they hear you've never seen Candyman. No.
Yes.
And then the way people are like, you gotta get on it. So I knew I would enjoy it, but I really didn't know what to expect. I've seen Virginia Madsen before. I think she's a decent actress. Um, I like the way the storyline moved, and even some of the subplots that were, you know, secondary to the plot. I would say,
Mhm.
um, I thought they still tied in enough to the story, so they had relevance at the end. Um, but yeah, yeah, I'm actually now interested to see the sequels. Maybe not the remake, but we'll see.
I would say the one everybody calls a remake is actually a sequel, and it's
The Jordan Peele one.
yeah, Yeah, and
Okay.
he produced, not directed. But yes, it's actually a sequel.
Yeah.
Um, and I personally, I think it's really good. So
Hmm.
I would say see that one more than the sequels, even because it's one of those deals where they kind of retcon, not retcon, but kind of said, you know what, this movie links to the original. Forget about everything else.
Nice. I like
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah, and I think that one is really good, and it flips the script almost literally. Um, and we talked about race a little bit. So for this movie, one of the things that it kind of leans into is it leans into the white privilege of Virginia Madsen's character, and in the end, you could even call it a white savior film in the end.
Yeah,
Whereas
it had elements
with
of that.
the with the sequel, the last sequel that everybody says is remake, but with that movie, it's flipped. So now it's more of a social commentary, dealing with the treatment of black men in this country.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just almost complete opposite. Um, but I see you nodding when we mentioned the white privilege of Virginia Madsen. Were you
Yeah.
picking up on that as it was going on?
Yeah, I mean, she even it was kinda blatant at one point because she was like, you know, "People get killed, cops don't come, one woman, and, they come immediately." So, it was like, "Yeah, yeah." It's like that I was waiting for Cassie Lemon to say, "Duh."
Duh.
Always good to see
Right.
her, by the way. She doesn't have that many, acting performances before she
Right.
got into the director's chair and doing writing and all that, so it's always good to see her. But for me, I like I won't even say focus, but I'll say the switch up on urban legends
Mhm.
because it's always like a curiosity thing with urban legends, and that's how movies like Urban Legend get made. But I think telling the backstory of the entity just makes it personalized.
Mhm.
And I think that right there alone was enough to make it intriguing and very interesting. So that was one of the things I really enjoyed about it.
Okay. Um, when so like I mentioned, she's trying to get her doctorate. She's trying to get her thesis. If regardless of your race, you're just not of that area, right? She's not a person of Cabrini Green. She's never been there before. Are you going there?
Nah, I ain't walking there. I ain't driving there. No Uber. And it's just because it's like that's not my territory.
Right. Right.
But when you don't know. And when you feel like you could go anywhere, so it goes back to the privilege thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you want the cops there when something goes wrong.
Exactly. Exactly.
Those cops
Um,
came when you got popped. So,
yeah. Oh, I'm definitely not walking into that restroom. There's just no way.
mm-mm.
No way.
If you've ever smelled dried blood,
Hmm.
no,
Yeah, but I mean,
no,
from the outside, I'm like, no, I'm not going in there. Are you crazy?
mm-mm, no.
You just tell me what's in there. Okay, you told me. I'm
You
good
told
with
me,
that.
I believe you.
Yeah,
I believe you.
exactly.
I don't need to get that close.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. But during that scene, what would you feel when our Candyman showed up?
Um, Now I'm thinking back.
That Candyman, not.
Oh, that was almost like overdue. Like
Mhm.
if it wasn't going to happen when they first got there, it was like that made it real for me. Cause I don't care if you think I'm 5'0", I'm moving in like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh
somebody
yeah.
gonna try to touch you,
Oh yeah.
and you ain't get touched. Nah, somebody gonna try to touch you and run so they don't catch a charge, but somebody gonna try to touch you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I hate to keep bringing up my wife and kind of making having fun at her expense tonight, but but
Is she
but
watching?
she's actually not. She's in the next room. She's actually not. I'm not sure if she's listening to me through the door or not. But she grew up in New York. Less time. She left when she was younger than I did, but she has some family in Far Rockaway, and they lived in Redfern projects.
Ah, yes.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with them with that
Very,
project.
very.
Yes. So I had family in Far Rockaway also, but not in the projects. And one year we went up as to see my family. She's like, "Hey, well, while we're here, let's go see my cousins over here." I was like, "Okay, sure." So we go driving, and she couldn't exactly remember because it had been so many years since she had been there. She couldn't exactly remember which building they were in. So we drive. So we drove past the building,
Hmm.
and she's like, "Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Go back around." So we drove past. We came back the second time, and she wasn't real sure. I said, "Look, you got one more pass on this, and we getting out of here because
Yeah,
because
because you look
yeah,
suspect. You either look like
yes,
cops or you look like you're about to do a drive-by.
exactly,
Either way,
exactly.
gonna get you touched.
Either way, either way. Thankfully, it worked out. We figured it out, and she wound up getting her cousin on the phone, and we, had
I
a
was
good
about
night
to
after
say,
that. Yeah,
this if it's before cell phones, that's when you hit up the bodega. You got the phone on the
with the
corner and say,
payphone.
"Yo,
Yep,
come outside.
exactly,
Where you at?
exactly,
Come on the corner."
exactly. So yeah, that definitely rang true for me. Man, no, this is no, you can't be here just doing whatever you want to do. That's
Mm-mm.
that's not how this works. Not at
No,
all. Not
somebody
at
gonna
all.
touch you up.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's see who's in the, or what they're saying about it in the chat. Lutulo's still talking about happy endings. So if you want a happy ending, go watch Barbie or Ninja Turtles. Fair enough. And yep, Candyman time. There we go. And
I don't get that reference. It was
Sammy
probably
Davis,
something else.
the song Candyman.
Oh no, no, no. This Candyman can't.
Yes. Yeah. Oh snap. Trinity says, "Yeah, KB, what was you doing in '92?"
I was DJing in '92. I had no time for horror movies.
There you go. So I haven't seen any of the Godfather movies, none of the Friday the 13th movies, Scarface, Goodfellas, or Casino. We all got gaps in our coverage. Yes, this is true.
Thank you,
And
sir.
you got a lot of movies to watch, Latulo.
Hey, start with the Friday the 13th. Perfect time of year, you know.
Perfect time of year. Perfect time of year. All right. So what did you think about how well you mentioned it a bit, but the husband and the colleagues, the way they tied into the story.
They were almost like secondary villains to me
Okay.
because not to say that her story was supposed to be believable,
Hmm.
but at the same time it was more than working against her. I'll say that much. For everything that she was trying to do, you don't need additional opposite forces working against you as well. So,
Okay.
but it was also kind of typical some of the storylines there. So, cops, whether they believe you or not,
Right.
husband, what he's doing. So, I didn't even think she was married when I first heard of the movie. I was like, oh, so she got like professor boyfriend or whatever, or she's sleeping with her professor or whatever. But when I realized they were married, I was like, oh, I didn't think
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They were absolutely married. Um, Now, just to go on the other end, you've already said that you like the movie. There was one thing that always sticks out to me like a sore thumb in this movie, and that is the performance of Vanessa Williams, aka Keisha from New Jack City.
yeah, rockabye baby.
Rockabye Baby. Oh my god! Every time I watch this movie, that I just cringe whenever she starts talking. I can't. What is it? Me or was she that bad, or was she or was she good? Am I missing something?
No, she wasn't the strongest actress, but I think what she did well was exhibited in this movie. So that kind of hysterics,
Hmm.
I thought she does that very well, and
Okay.
it's kind of like that person. or that persona that you just want to silence real quick. Like, shut up. So yes, I could see why they made the casting choice for her based on past work. So,
Okay.
but there was more than New Jack City that she's done, but she's definitely typecast.
She is, and I think she's grown as an actress. I've seen her do better in other things for sure.
Hmm.
It's just in this particular film, I'm like, this you're just I don't know what you're doing in that accent. What is that? Is that is
I was just about to ask you when she says the baby's name. I swear she said Anthony, like as in Anthony Hardaway.
she might have, but I think it's one of those things where she means Anthony,
Yes, but the accent made it sound like Anthony.
like Anthony, or like to I guess put our culture's business out there. When you hear somebody say "screet,"
Yeah.
like I'm going up the street.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's where we were
Okay.
with her. At
Because the
least I
child
think
name is
so.
Anthony.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. That's what I always got out of it. And yeah, so yeah, her aside though, um, the other thing that I wasn't, not that I'm not keen on it, because I like Cassie Lemons. I liked her performance. I'm not sure I like the writing of her character all the way through. And what I mean by that is, um, at some points she makes a lot of sense, and at other points she's just the dumb friend. So how'd you feel about her?
I think that was kind of like the role that she was given to play.
Hmm.
So, and like I said, we've seen it before. Not the dumb part, but the friend that's there. So, I brought over some groceries for you.
Yeah,
I didn't
that
ask you to do that. You get what you got.
yeah, what you got? All right, Lutulo says Candyman don't got candy, but he got a shit ton of bees, so he can get you some honey.
For real.
So
That scene was good. That scene was
yes,
good too.
yes, trivia for you on
Mm.
that. Those were real bees, and he really had them in his mouth,
Wow.
and they had some kind of mouth guard on him,
Yeah.
and he wasn't going to do it, but they kept talking to him, and he said, "Okay, fine, I'll do it, but every time I get stung, you have to pay me $1,000. You have to add $1,000 to whatever you're paying me for
Yeah.
every sting." And I believe the number wound up to be $23,000 is what they wound up adding to him, meaning 23 stings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nah, son. Nah. Nah.
Now, of course, in the new one and today, they CGI
CGI.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's one case where I would totally understand CGI.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, you really didn't have that option.
Mm-mm. Wow. That's a good one. That's a good one. Because even
Yeah.
after the scene, there was still a couple of like, so that must
Hmm.
have been real. Like, oh, y'all missed one.
Yep.
It's in
Yep.
my ear.
And not even that doesn't even take into account if Virginia Madsen got stung, because she was right there with him.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm with you. I'm like, no,
Nah.
no. Can we like shoot this from behind and just play some buzzing on the
Mm-hmm.
make it seem like it? Do we have to show
Yeah.
this?
Let's DNR that thing right there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whew, that's
Nah.
pretty tough.
No.
It's not doing that at all, at all. So we get to the end, and you kind of mentioned this a little bit. Um, a subversion of expectations completely, or no?
Some. I would say some for sure.
Okay. Okay. In what ways, if you can, without giving too much away?
Mm, how can I put this? I don't know. Like just going back, like there were. apparently people thought that black people wouldn't like this movie for
Hmm.
some reason, and I'm like, I don't know why not. You know, Eh, maybe we feel different today about representation than they did, you know, 31 years ago. But I don't know. That's
Okay.
the only thing I could think of without saying too much.
Okay. I got a theory on that. Let me know what you think. Um, One, I mentioned the white savior thing.
Hmm.
You know, we still still gets to be the hero somehow,
Yeah,
and then just the very fact that the black character or is just the villain, so there's really no way around it. So I guess people would be like, you know, you don't really
yeah,
need it that way. So that's kind of my theories on that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I could see that, but I the whole thing about it, and I'll just keep it 100 here. If he was white, would we be looking for redemption?
Hmm. Interesting.
I don't think
Interesting.
so because the villain is the villain is the villain.
Yeah.
Freddy was
True.
Freddy was evil in the beginning. We don't care why at the end he's still evil.
Hmm. And now to throw it back to you though, that I think that's like you said, you know, it's tied to race and the whole representation. You know, what do we want out of certain characters
Yeah.
because of who they are, or what they look like. Um, so yeah, that is a great point. Lutulo's got some heat for me. He says, "No, you not tripping. Vanessa Williams was doing too much in Candyman. Her acting would be fine in a Tyler Perry movie, but not in Candyman."
It would be, and here's a word I don't use often enough. It would be apropos in a Tyler Perry
Yes,
movie.
yes, yes. That is for sure. You know, they did lots of over dramatic acting in those movies. And I'm not a fan of Tyler Perry movies. How about you?
I try, man. I try. You know, I try. But by the time we get to like Boo and Who in Jail, and I'm gone. You know what I used to watch and just, like, oh, it's early, let me throw this in kind of thing. The play adaptations that they used to have on video. But
Yeah,
then when they started making them into feature films and I could do Bad All by Myself and all that, and you got Taraji in there now, I was like, nah, I'm done.
so I live with a Tyler Perry fan,
Uh-huh.
so I've seen everything Tyler Perry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like you. I'm like, okay, again, we got to watch another one.
Boo 3? Come on.
Pretty much. Now, I will say this about Taraji P Henson and Acrimony.
That I liked.
That I liked, and for me, it's because it falls into that subgenre of movies that I have a soft spot for, and I call them my obsession slash psychopath
Mhm.
movies.
And she does crazy well.
She does crazy very well, and on top of that, nothing in the movie makes not one lick of sense. So I was loving it. It was funny though because we went to the theater to see that one, and it was a packed house,
Of course.
and we get to the end, and people start applauding like it was legitimately a great movie, and I just bust out laughing.
Sometimes representation and identification is all that people need.
True, but for Tyler Perry, especially for Tyler Perry, because this wasn't like his first movie. We're double
Right.
digits by this point. I'm like, okay, we got to be over this by now,
Nope.
are we? But
Nope.
no, we are
Each
absolutely
story is a new story that represents us. That's how it's seen for his fans, and they vote with their dollars. So as long
not.
as they could keep turning them out.
I will say this for Tyler Perry. I have all the respect for him in the world for building his the empire that he's built. And I think of any movie director out there, maybe ever, he's more in touch with his fan base. He knows what they want and he consistently gives it to them. It may
Yep.
not work for me, but it works for people that want to see it.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of sad because as more refined of, like you were saying, you did movie critiquing and everything, the more refined you become as a movie watcher, dare I say cinephile, the less you can appreciate those movies. But
Hmm.
there are people, once again, like I was saying before with Dawn of the Dead, where they only see movies on the surface level,
Oh yeah.
and that's where you get your Nun twos, that's where you get your acrimonies, that's where you get your boo threes, and they're going to keep coming back and they're going to enjoy it for the hour and 45, and they're going to clap at the end, and they're going to go to work on Monday and say, girl, you got to see this. And
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
it's going to make box office.
Absolutely. And he makes those movies pretty cheap. We got ballooning budgets all over Hollywood, and he's making these movies for generally $20 million or less, and raking in two, three times that at the box office. So they're
Yep.
not like the top movies of the year, but he's making money. He's making profits. So
Yep.
I
And the two mentioned in the chat are two of those play adaptations that I was talking about. That's actually pretty good.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, his Lutzalo said Tony Todd crazy for real, letting them bees crawl on him. Yes, absolutely. And Tyler Perry's has a couple of good ones. The Family That Prays Together and Why Did I Get Married are decent.
Yep.
I did enjoy Why Did I Get Married. The first one, the second one was a little too much, I thought.
Yeah.
But I did actually like the first one. I think that's one of his better movies.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I saw all the plays, and it was. I'm glad he's not putting those out anymore. At least not that I know of. And it was one of those things like, okay, I'll kind of fight through the storyline, but okay, song time. Okay, I got to go to the bathroom. I need a drink of water. I got to do something. All
Yeah.
right.
And why did I get married? My favorite thing in the movie, Jill Scott.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah, that's all I
absolutely,
gotta say. Jill Scott.
absolutely. That's a running theme in my house. Something happens, or Jill Scott pops up on the TV, and I'll look over at my wife first, make sure she's listening, and I'll go, "Hey, there's Big Sexy," and she kind of she kind of suck her teeth at me, but I was like,
You ain't
okay.
never lie. You ain't never lie. That woman wants to move to Holland and retire. I'm like, you got room?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, so let's get back to Candyman.
Yeah, because
Um,
you got Crown Royal on my mind. So continue, please.
all right, so what did you think about one the way this particular movie was shot, especially comparing it to another horror movie like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead? How did you think this movie was shot?
I think very murky. I would use that word, and it kind of really, as far as production value, kind of set the mood for what the movie was. Earlier, I said it had like a very gothic feel,
Mm,
but usually when people think of gothic, they think of some folklore or something from the late 1800s or whatever. But imagine if you had to modernize it and tell a gothic tale.
mm,
I think like having that urban, you know, setting in, pretty much like a rundown hood and everything like that,
yeah,
with the reflection of a former place that is now condos and whatnot in the not too far off distance.
yeah,
I think that was a good way to modernize that type of theme. And once again, we're dealing with a villain that has a story that's unlike any other villain that we've come across. So the
mm,
setting and everything had to reflect, if we're not dealing with slavery, but we're dealing with modern urban situations, and them even getting into the whole building thing even
mm,
played into that with the socioeconomic side of it.
right.
But I think the way it was shot, even the little bit of desaturation in the coloring of the film, all played into the right mood for the whole film.
Yeah. One thing I thought was really effective was we get a lot of either slow pan ins or pan outs and I
Mhm.
thought those were really, really effective, especially in the two scenes where Virginia Madsen's character, Helen, is looking into
The
through
mirror.
a hole into the next, yeah, into the mirror, but through it really specifically after she takes out the back of the medicine cabinet in her apartment,
Mhm.
looking into the
And
next
it does the
apartment,
push.
right, and then later on when she's in Cabrini Green and essentially doing the same thing from one apartment to the next,
Mhm.
and then the camera kind of flips around and shows you what's actually on the wall surrounding
Yeah.
her.
Oh,
She's
that
sticking
was a
her head.
great scene, like the handmade mural.
Yes, yes. That is we talked about. I talked about an all-time scene in Dawn of the Dead. For me, that's an all-time shot in horror. For me, is
Yeah.
that that.
That's your one perfect shot right there.
Yeah, yeah, that is my one perfect shot
Yeah.
for this particular movie. You touched a bit on the socioeconomic uh, climate of this movie. Do you have any more to add to that?
Um, well, we mentioned the whole thing with the cops, which, I mean, we already know, just, growing up the way we did, but, I just think there is a whole bunch of different kinda like slivers of it that's delivered, like, through the writing and all that, that they didn't throw it in your face, but kinda kept giving you, like, hints and I don't wanna say clues, but kinda like an innuendo so that this stayed in the front of your mind throughout the movie to
Mhm.
kinda let you see, okay, so times have changed, but in a way, there's still things going on that affects the society and kinda keeps them back. So here you have someone, not giving too much away, but someone who's affluent and then treated in a way that people in a lower social class was experiencing daily as far
Okay.
as like their demise.
Right.
And
Right.
you're seeing that now in the modern times with the way these people are living and their environment and everything like that. So it's kind of like a case of like the more things change, the more they stay the same. But the way they kept delivering it through the writing, I don't even know who the writer is, but I think that was clever writing, not to like smack you in the face with it, but just to keep it in the front of your mind, like I said before.
Okay. I'm looking up the writer as we're speaking, but just to bring it back to a kind of a surface level thing and a slasher movie kind of thing. What about the kills? How'd you like those?
I mean, he has like one move. It's kind of like when you're on Mortal Kombat and you're looking to see, okay, who has the best finishing moves or whatever like that. He wouldn't be my first choice because, it's probably like a simple down, down, up, up, A, B,
Right,
kind of thing.
right, right.
So
I,
it's
I
kind of like a one trick pony here, but they were brutal. I'll say that
yes,
much,
they were
especially when it was unexpected.
yes, and I'll say this too. I think what added to the brutality of it was his grunting,
He was
and
enjoying it.
yeah, he was enjoying it. That
Yeah.
is for sure, and that
Maybe he's
was
counting like, "Here's another one. Here's another
yeah,
one."
yeah. Yeah, it was one of those things where you're kind of wondering, is like, how much are you enjoying this, dude? What
Mhm.
what is
But
going
once
on?
again, he's a villain, and we typically don't look for redemptive qualities in our villains. We just accept the fact that, "Hey, there's the bad guy," like Tony
Right,
Montana would say. So
right, right, right. And I think for me, the difference is, not so much for Freddy, but for a character like Jason or Michael Myers, the killing almost just feels like a muscle reflex.
like a release.
Right, a release. Well, you know what? Not even really a release. When I think of Jason and Michael Myers, it's not even a release. It's almost not, maybe not reflex, but muscle memory, and it's just like, they're on autopilot. So something happens, you stab, you cut, you do whatever, and they're being creative characters, but you don't get the sense of you get the sense that that's just what they do.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily fun, I would say. But for Candyman, it was like, he's having a
he enjoying
ball
this.
doing it.
He's enjoying this.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of that was interesting. The writer, by the way, is the director, Bernard Rose,
All right.
which I
All
did
right.
not
Good
know.
job.
Yes, yes.
Go to
Um,
the previous one. They
yes,
go
that's
together.
where I am going.
Here we go.
And here we go. He says, other than the first Scream, I feel that the Scream franchise falls into the surface level enjoyable movie. They get more ridiculous with each subsequent film. They're mindless fun, but that's all.
I'm
I,
sitting back.
I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna finish it.
You
The
stepping
thing
on
I
toes.
Yeah, yeah, really. The thing I did get is why so many in the community hold them, the Scream movies, in such high regard. In my opinion, they're entertaining. Excuse me, something jumped over here. But if one's really honest, they're not good. Ooh.
I ain't
Woo.
I ain't gotta say a word. Call me Paul. I ain't in it at all.
I'm gonna agree to disagree. But I will say why. I'll say why. For me, I'm a person who I value well done spoofs, and I've always looked at the Scream movies as spoofs first and horror second. And a well done spoof for me, it makes fun of a genre that it has love for, and it still functions within the tropes that it's making fun of for that genre. And I think the Scream movies do a really good job of that. Of course, some do it better than others. Um, and yeah, 5 and 6 don't do it quite as well because I
Mhm.
think they're still trying to find the balance
Yeah,
of the first couple of movies. But I wouldn't say that they're not good. I would definitely say they're both good movies, and they do have some of those elements to them.
yeah. And I just thinking back, um, when you were on my channel for spooky season last year, you made a similar point talking about how you see it like a parody. So having a parody of a parody is kind of repetitive, like when you
Right.
think of the scary movie franchise.
Right.
Um, so I could see that. I just enjoy them for, dare I say it, it's kind of like formulaic,
Hmm.
but you're looking for how it's going to be formulaic. Like honestly, Saw 10. Do we need more traps? Do we need more? You're really going to see the extravagance of the traps and the kills, but
Yeah.
I don't think you're going in looking for something new. I didn't go into Scream 5 and 6 looking for something new. The
Right.
characters were new, but the whole thing is the premise and all that was similar. I think the beauty of the first one, like he was saying, um, was that it was so unexpected. And you, of course, like even people who don't like it, and there are those people out there,
Yeah.
they respect what it did for the genre and kind of bring back in the slashers and all that stuff. But once you get to like, I would say, well, did you pick up 3 today?
I didn't. I'm hoping it's still there. The steelbook's still there this week.
Hopefully,
We'll
hopefully,
see.
hopefully. But like, that's my least favorite of the franchise.
Mine too.
Yeah, because by then it just got campy, and that's when it truly became, dare I say it, like a parody of itself.
Hmm.
So we didn't. Once again, you're right. We didn't need the scary movies because by Scream 3, it was basically so campy and cheesy. It was making fun of itself. But I think the formula was there, so you're just looking to see how they're going to change the formula around.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't go into it expecting the same originality and value as the first one.
Yeah, yeah,
It
you're
doesn't
right.
document that.
I agree with that. You're looking for how they changing the formula up, and also for me, what is it saying about the rest of the horror genre? Because that's one thing the Scream movies still do is they actually do say something about the current state of the horror genre.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not, they still do it. And as a I got a collector question for you because I'm a person who has been known to say that I upgrade, not double dip, and I generally get rid of the movies. As I do, I get rid of the lower format. So if you can see over here behind me, I'm just gonna grab it. I've got this.
I've been looking at that.
Yes, this wonderful DVD edition of the first three Scream movies. It's got this cool cover
I
on
like
it,
that.
and I've been holding on to it for sure until Scream 3 came out on 4K, and now it's out. Now it's here. Now I have a decision to make. What would be your decision? Would you keep that set also, or would you just let it go and get a few bucks for it and trade it and get something else?
If I had the room, I would put it out for display. For example, Nightmare on Elm Street being my favorite franchise. That DVD box set is still one of the greatest DVD box sets of all time. There you go, right next to it. They came out with the Blu-rays, hot trash. They're coming out with the 4K because, like I've been telling people, I went to see it last year in the theater and they showed us a 4K transfer. So the first one is already done on 4K, remastered from original camera negative, all that good stuff. So Warner Brothers got that in the bag. When I get the 4K of that, I'm still not going to get rid of the DVD box set because I need all of those to come out on 4K before I do that. So, and once again, still one of the greatest box sets of all time. I might even put it away and just display it during, October. I won't
Okay,
keep saying spooky season, but October or so.
okay.
I
Tony
agree with that.
has
I
one of the
agree
best
with
voices
that.
ever. Yes, especially the way they amplified it.
Yes. The
Yeah,
echoes and all that.
yes. So he does have a great voice, but he had some assistance, and it worked. It
But
really does work.
but even just like straight up doing interviews, did you see the Robert
Oh,
Englund documentary?
I haven't seen that one, but I've heard him talk a number of times. I've heard him
Yeah,
speak. Yeah.
he's on that as well. And my man sound like he's about to leave the interview and go do like Othello tonight. Like,
I believe it. Yeah,
yeah, he's got a nice voice.
he does absolutely. Gunshi Candyman was based on Clive Barker's short story called The Forbidden.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. I did not know that. Culture says Trini says keep it. Okay,
As
as
long as you got room, man.
long as you got room. Okay,
But
so
like the Blu-rays to 4Ks, like for me, I, a lot of my daughter, third KB,
mhm.
I pass it on to her because I want to encourage her to have a library too. So keep physical media going by the generation. So she gets, I don't want to call them my hand me downs, but she gets my upgrades.
There you
So
go.
as I go Blu-ray to 4K, she gets a Blu-ray.
All right, and Lutula says keep the screen box set and upgrade to 4K. All right, honestly, I'm leaning towards that way, and
You're
it's not
gonna
even
get the
because of
4K either way. It's
I'm
just a
gonna
matter
get
if
the
he's getting
4K.
rid of the DVD or
Yeah,
not.
I'm gonna keep the 4K, and I just really love that box set,
It's
so I'm
beautiful.
probably gonna
I've never
keep
seen
that.
that.
No, wow, I didn't know it. It's I thought it was fairly common, but yeah,
It
I
might
do
be.
love it.
Once
I do love
again, Criterion Collection and
it. Right. Got it.
I disappeared from the horror genre for 15 years.
See, that was the thing. You were too worldly for the rest of us.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
were
I
a
was getting
Renaissance
into
man.
Fellini and, Ozu and whatnot.
All right, Mr. KB, let's go ahead and put it to bed. And you've kind of been letting it out the bag the whole time, but I'm gonna let you give us your overall thoughts on Candyman here, directed by Mr. Bernard Rose. Go for it.
Excellent movie. I should not have waited 31 years. That's on me. Um, like I said, everything from the setting to the way they handle urban legend to the way they handle him as a villain. I think it's all well done. I'm interested to see the sequels and the requel just to see how that is done, and just to get more of Candyman because you know, like I just mentioned the Robert Englund documentary, and they were mentioning like Wishmaker or Wishmaster that has England, uh, Hodder, and Tony Todd in it. So he's respected in the industry as far as being a horror
Oh,
icon.
absolutely.
So I just need to see more with him. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. He's also in uh, Tales from the Hood 3. He's also in that. And that's actually better than I was expecting. I thought it was better than part two. I don't think it has a physical release yet, though. I don't think so. I'll have to look. I do want it. I do want that movie. So,
Yeah,
but
I
it
think
is.
I didn't see him in a lot of things before this. Probably The Rock,
Yeah, he's shown
Transformers.
up. He's shown up in a few things
Yeah,
over the years. He's one of those guys that once you see him, you don't forget him.
yeah,
But he's you're not overexposed to him for sure. That's just not
and
the case.
I'm not surprised to see that he did Broadway too, because he has that, once again, that presence. So whether it's a voice or that silhouette scene, just did it for me. So I keep going back to that. But a commanding presence is important for doing theater. So that comes across in his performance in this movie. So something else I really liked.
Absolutely. Got some few comments to run through before we get out of here. Lutulo says this is a bit off topic now. I know they're from different studios, but how we get The Last Dragon on 4K before Purple Rain?
I was
Warner
thinking that
Brothers,
this
come
weekend
on.
in Minneapolis. I was like, why am I not looking at a Purple Rain 4K?
This is true, but Last Dragon wouldn't be the movie I call out. There are so many movies on 4K. I'm like, do we really have to have that? So
Yeah,
at least The Last Dragon, at least I think is a good movie. There's
at
so
least
many
I wanted that on 4K.
I want it right. So many bad movies. I'm like, oh, what are we doing? Do we really need this?
Yep.
And it is what it is. Hopefully, we'll get one. Uh,
Spicy.
Spicy is here. What's going on, Spicy? Says, "Sup,
What's
fellas?
up,
Sorry I'm
Reed?
late. Definitely catch the replay. Absolutely catch the replay because I think we had a really good time here tonight, and just people going back and forth saying good. What's up to Spicy? And
Yeah.
Trini says, yes, we needed it. LOL. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we've come to the part of the show, Mr. KB, where now I'm just going to turn the stage over to you. And I'm going to let you just tell us about these 31 days of conversations that you are in the midst of and anything else that you want to tell the good people about your channel or your Instagram or anything you just want to say at all. Go for it, my man.
All right. So KB loves movies. Could find me on Instagram, my YouTube channel right now. As Del mentioned, it's 31 conversations in 31 days. Yes, I'm crazy, but if you're gonna go hard, go big, go hard. But basically, we're talking spooky, creepy movies all month long. Somewhere in the middle of that, I'm going to have to take a break and actually see a movie myself. So I just got tickets to go see Carpenter Fest, a 3 movie marathon of John Carpenter movies. Looking forward to that. But mostly on the channel, we have conversations with other movie lovers. So if you want to see that kind of stuff, stop by. If you want to see hauls and all that stuff, I usually keep that to Instagram. Love to do stories more than posts. So check it out when you can. Uh, yeah, man. Thank you again for having me, because nice to always be here. We could chat for hours. I think this is your longest movie swap, so I'll hold that record for a minute until Bob comes back on. And yeah, it's good to be the first repeat guest as well. I appreciate it, and thank you for that.
And thank you for coming on. I am going to have to burst your bubble a little bit. You don't have the record. Uh, when Nick came on, one of the earliest movie swaps, we did a Saturday afternoon. We went for like 2.5 hours, just
Ah,
chit chatting back and forth. So you
oh
don't
man, I'm
don't
not even
quite
gonna
hold
make
the
2 hours.
record.
I should have known, man.
I
Movie
will
AV
say
Impulse.
this.
Check my brother Nick out.
Yes, definitely check Nick out, and I hope he catches the replay on this one because I know he's sleeping right now.
Yeah, he's asleep.
Yeah, but I think this is the longest midweek movie swap. If that's a consolation
I'll
prize,
hold it. I'll hold it.
yeah, that'll work. I will just go through these last few comments before we get out of here. Uh, Gungshi, thank you, Dylan KB. That was really interesting discussion on two really good movies. Thank you.
Thanks
I
for checking
appreciate
in.
it. Absolutely. Laren, I actually saw both movies this time. Hello.
That's me sometimes when I'm watching. I'm like, oh man, I ain't see this. I got to come back and watch this part.
And it's cool. I love doing that, but I love it both ways. You know, I love it when we
Mhm.
get to talk about movies everybody knows, and I love it when we get to talk about movies not many people have
Yeah.
seen because I like recommending movies. So I'm glad you guys keep coming back for it.
Good night, Laren.
Good night, Laren and Trini. Great stream. Two movies I love. Have a good night. You do the same, Trini, my man.
Salute, my man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dell and KB. Great live stream. Y'all should collaborate more often. You have great synergy.
It's
Yeah,
that New York thing.
yeah, it is. It is, and we're kind of kindred spirits in that way.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. From the jump, man. I have to say,
yes,
from the jump, it's been like that. So
right
that's
from the
true.
jump. Right from so we'll put something together, whether it's
Yeah.
here or in your channel. We'll definitely put something together.
What's up, sis?
Yes, they're here. Had a stream. Sorry, couldn't watch live. Going to catch the replay now. Absolutely, because like I said, this was a really
Yeah.
fun one. Really
We
fun
had fun.
episode. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on Candyman.
They were teasing me about it last night. So yeah. Yeah. I won't say anymore. Catch a replay.
All right, that is cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and close it down for me. Just saying that in next week the twins will actually be here. So I have them on October 10th. And on the 17th, I got another one of your close friends, Mr. KB. I will have Draculina Horror, aka Caprice.
Sweetheart.
She
That's
will
my
be
girl
here on the
Caprice.
17th. Absolutely. And on the 24th, I got another superstar, Vinicio the Horror Cholo, will be here. So I got some hitters lined up.
Yeah, man.
Y'all come on back for all of those and anything else I put out. Subscribe to KB, subscribe to each other. And that's all I have for you guys. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.